Well, good morning, friends. This is Saturday morning in Thailand. It's what is it? November the 15th. All right, halfway through the month, and that it's Saturday morning here in Thailand, and this call is for um, Friday evening in the U.S. So today we're going to talk about several topics, but the first one that we're going to talk about is something that's not even Buddhist. It's Hindu, in fact. Um, Mikey, help me with that word. Is that
Right.
Chatu Soki? Soti.
Okay.
Chatu.
Yeah, not sure how it would have been pronounced all those years ago, but yeah, my reading of it is yeah, I'm not sure, but I've heard the English translation as the Buddha's fourfold rejection.
Mm-hmm. And it's not Buddha's, it's rejection. Okay, so the Chatu Soki is, in fact, four questions, or let us say, a yes or no question that has four possible answers. Okay, and the four possible answers is yes or no, and the maybes are that it's a combination or both of them, and then it's neither of them. Now, this kind of question was used in ancient India as a philosophy. You could say that this is, in fact, the ancient philosophy. And if you want to make a mistake about it, you can call it this is Buddhist philosophy. To where we want to really look at Buddhism and the teaching of the Buddha, it's not a philosophy at all. It's a way of life, specifically in this moment, moment by moment. So you could say that it, in fact, it's a lifestyle. So this yes, no, uh, both, and neither, I'm going to give a first example of that in the sense of physics, reality, and then we can go into the way that it's generally used. Because the way that it's generally used is to try to answer questions that don't have an answer to them. But physics generally has an answer to it. And so the physics question that I ask is the color yellow. Is it red or is it green? Brett, is the color yellow, is it red or is it green? I see you, but I don't hear you.
Haven't said anything.
Well, hello, Christina.
Yellow.
All right, now I hear you. So, Brett, in physics, is the color yellow, red, or green?
Well, in physics, we could measure the peak to
The
peak
Armstrong unit, right? You can measure
nanometers,
it. Mm-hmm. And so,
and green is around 532. So, and then red is longer, so that would be a smaller number.
mm-hmm.
So, but I wouldn't venture an approximation at this time.
So yellow, we have the Roy G. Bev, right? R
Right.
for red,
Primaries.
orange, yellow. Then we have green, and then we have blue, indigo, and violet. So green is in the middle, right? And so what you're suggesting is that yellow is neither red nor green, which is one of the four possible answers. Right? Okay. Now, if you've been using computers, and I'll pick on you because you're a scientist a bit, you have probably heard of RGB, red, green, blue. Is that correct? And we use it in computers a lot.
A lot. That is correct.
Right. We have red, we have green, and we have blue. And in fact, these three colors have been around since the 1960s with color television. Okay?
Yes.
Notice that yellow is not there, red, green, or blue. Now, the thing that's really interesting is that RGB or red, green, blue really doesn't have much of anything to do with the colors themselves and why computers use those three. Mikey, do you know why they use the RGB?
Has to do with the lights that are used on the screen. They use red.
No,
No. Okay.
no. It
Yeah, don't
has
know.
to do with the way the human eye is constructed. That we have cones of red, blue, and green cones in the eyes. So where does yellow come from is that it fires both the red and the green. And that's what gives the perception in the human brain of the color yellow. So in that regard, Brett, guess what? The answer is it's both. It's not red, it's not green, it's yellow, which is neither, but the way the human eye works, to get the color yellow, it has to have both the red and the green. So now that we've gotten that, let's go and start looking at the way that it was actually used way back when. It's used to answer questions that have no answer. This is why we call it philosophy. In fact, that's where Greek and Western philosophy came from, was trying to find answers to questions that don't have an answer. Now, the one that we find quite common in the suttas is, does the Tathagata exist after death, or does he not exist after death? Or does the Tathagata both exist and not exist after death? Or does the Tathagata neither exist nor not exist? Okay, we've seen that in suttas. In fact, it's in the Majjhima Nikaya several places. This is a standard kind of question that the Hindus would ask. Now, everybody here, when they hear that riddle, they immediately take the word Tathagata out and put the word me in it. In the sense of, do I mean, who cares about the Tathagata? I want to know, do I exist after death? Or do I not exist after death? Or do I both exist and not exist? Or do I neither exist nor not exist? Now, there's another place where that question is asked. And in fact, you could look at this one in the sense of rebirth and reincarnation. This is the question. And a lot of people go around answering that question as a yes. That's an eternalist. And when they say no, then that's going to be a nihilist. But the Buddha did not answer either that question in either of those yes or no frameworks. He did not also answer it in both and neither. Now, let's get another example. Is the world eternal or is it finite? So, you could actually expand that based upon modern physics to come to the question of, is the universe eternal or is it finite? And guess what? With all of the physics and with all of the telescopes, including the Hubble and the James Webb and all of the radio frequency telescopes that they've got in Brazil and all over the place, they still don't have an answer to that question. They've got some maybes. Maybe everything just disperses into nothing, and maybe it disperses for a while and then comes back and has a big bang. In both of those cases, it's eternal. And yet we don't know whether it's eternal or not. In fact, if we look at it from the perspective of a multi-universe, where it's a pop and then it's a bubble and then it bursts, etc., like that, that would be an example of the universe being finite. And even Jesus said that heaven and earth shall pass away. So Jesus was on one side of that. And some of the physics are on the other side, and some of them, so they're going back and forth, but they always want a yes or no answer. Now, here's a question for you, Brett. Is the world finite? Is the universe finite? Or is it eternal? I didn't use the word infinite.
Now,
Using
some
the,
have suggested it could be finite but unbounded.
okay. So now they're playing with words. Now they're getting into philosophy and all of that kind of stuff. In other words, they still want to know the answer to that question.
Curiosity may still exist in the human spirit, but I'm
Right.
here
And
referring to the no boundary proposal,
all right.
Stephen
So let
Hawking.
us
So he
say,
enumerated this with data, math.
all right. So let us say, yes, that
Another trick.
curiosity exists. Curiosity does exist, but in this case, it's misdirected. In the sense of, well, the universe exists right now. Isn't that good enough? Why do we have to look off into the future about it all? And now we're getting into the way
Present
that,
moment.
What?
However, the nature of the universe, it's that right now.
Yeah, the nature of the universe is the way that it is right now. And okay, so another question that was asked in that regard was, well, how did the universe get started? Did it happen in an event like a Big Bang, or was the universe always here? And that has that yes or no kind of thing. And then we have the philosophers jump in and say, oh, no, the universe was both finite and had a beginning, and it didn't have a beginning. So these are the various questions that the old philosophers were struggling with way back in the time of the Buddha. Now, there is a fifth answer to this that I want to introduce to you, but you already know it. And that fifth answer is not sure. I don't know. Mikey, do you know whether the universe is infinite or excuse me, is finite or infinite?
Don't know and don't need to know.
I don't go that far. You just don't know. All right. So I'll go through it all. Does anybody here know any of the answers to these questions? Does rebirth exist or not? Nobody knows, right? Do you know of anybody who knows the answer, the yes or no answer to any of these questions? Nobody knows. Well, if nobody knows, then that kind of means that we can live our lives quite well without knowing. Is that correct? In other words, it's unnecessary information, or I'll go so far as to use the word irrelevant. The answer to these questions, does the Tathagata exist after death or not, is an irrelevant question. So that gives us 6 answers. The Buddha generally chose a 7th answer. So we have yes, no, both, neither, I don't know, and I don't care. What's the 7th answer? Anybody? The 7th answer that the Buddha almost always used was to change the topic of conversation. He would redirect. In one of the famous suttas, he says, I do not declare that the Tathagata exists or not exist after death. I do not declare that he both exists and does not exist. I do not declare any of that. I declare dukkha, dukkha nirodha. I declare the Four Noble Truths. In other words, he avoids all of those questions. Why? For one thing, they don't have an answer. And the Hindus, or the old Hindus, the Brahmins, they worked really hard trying to find an answer to that question. And a lot of Buddhists get hung up on trying to pigeonhole it into an answer. And that's why it's referred to as Buddhist philosophy, to where the Buddha was not a philosopher. He was a realist, in the sense that it doesn't matter. I don't care whether the world is infinite or not. I don't care what the beginning of the world was. I don't care whether the Tathagata exists or not exist after death. And I don't care, Brett, whether you exist or not exist after death. I don't even care if I exist or not after death. Yes, Brad, go ahead.
It seems to me like as I've gotten older and partially matured, that philosophy seems like a game for folks that haven't worked through meaninglessness.
Yes,
Realize
precisely.
the freedom therein. I mean, am I wrong?
Yes, they're still looking for the meaning of life.
Yeah, and there ain't one.
Where did
Can't
that
find a
come
subject.
from? It's been around for a
Curiosity.
long time. Okay. And that would be one of the imponderables. Now, that's the word that the Buddha used
Yep.
for these kind of questions, is that they have no answer. It's imponderable. Don't give it a thought. And the meaning of life falls into that, though it wasn't specifically registered in the time of the Buddha. But what is the meaning of life? Christina, what is the meaning of life?
Oh boy. I don't know.
You don't have an answer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, it is correct. That's right. You don't have an answer for that. There is no answer to the meaning of life. However, we have an awful lot of people, most of them associated with some religion or another, who think that that's an important question. And in fact, it has no meaning. Now, they say, well, if we've got a God, then God means something. He's got a God's plan and all of that. So that one would be one of the questions that could be asked in that framework. Does God exist? Does God exist? Yes or no? Or maybe both God exist and not exist. Or maybe he neither exists or not exist. But the reality is does anybody here know that God exists or not? Nobody knows, right? Which means that our lives, which have no meaning at all, is just fine whether a God exists or not, which makes God irrelevant. God's irrelevant. Meaning of life is irrelevant because we don't know and there's no way to find out. And guess what? The physicists are working really hard. I mean, there's millions, sometimes billions of dollars spent, NASA's and James Webb telescopes and all of that kind of stuff, because people really want to know the answer to questions that have no answers to them. And so long as they want something that they do not have, that's what the Buddha calls dukkha. So, Christina, if you're looking for the meaning of life, that means that you're going to be suffering because you're not going to get a meaning to life. Does God exist or not? You're going to suffer trying to figure that out. And wow, has there been a lot of discussions on that. In fact, there's the Christians and the atheists have gone tooth and tongue about it. And they normally do it in one of two venues. One is they'll do this debate in a church, or number two, they'll do it in a university setting. Now, when it's in a church, most of the people who are in the audience are Christians, and they're rooting for there is a God, and so they'll listen and take in what the preacher says, and they agree with him. And the atheist in the crowd, so at the university, most of the people are going to be atheists, and in the Christian churches, they're going to be Christians. And guess what? When the debate is over, no one's changed their mind. The atheists did not convince any of the Christians, and the Christians didn't convince any of the atheists. And nobody knows. Nobody knows, which means then, I wonder what would happen if someone, a Buddhist, would walk on the stage and say, I don't care whether God exists or not. That's kind of irrelevant. Let's go find out something that's really worth debating about. I wonder if the Christians would start throwing furniture. So, this is the point, is that these questions do not have an answer to them, and the Buddha changed the topic. He would change it to what he did teach, and that was dukkha, dukkha nirodha. That's all he cared about. Now, here's something that Mikey and I were talking about earlier today, and that was that the Buddha was the first and perhaps only one at that time who ever really asked that question. All the philosophers, all the Hindus, all the Jews, and eventually the Christians and the Muslims, none of them ever asked the question, what is dukkha and how do we eliminate the dukkha? In other words, dissatisfaction. So, in that regard, you're talking about, Brett, curiosity. All the physicists and all the philosophers, they have this curiosity and it burns. It's unsatisfied, unrequited love, in fact. They want to know the answer, and there is no answer to these questions. So, where does that lead us? It leads us, let's not ask those kind of questions. Let's stay with the kind of questions that can be answered. And there is definitely an answer to what is dukkha. And we can say it that it is satisfaction that is denied. That's why we call it dissatisfaction. Okay? Or it's disappointment in the face of expecting or making an appointment with something, and then the appointment is not kept. And so we are disappointed. This is what the Buddha was looking for, was how can we live our lives where there is no disappointment right here, right now? If we are good at finding the answer to that question right here, right now, then all we've got is a now. That's all there is right now. There is no past, there is no future. So we don't have to ask the question, how can I permanently get rid of dukkha? The question is irrelevant because we don't have an answer to the future, but we do have an answer to it in the sense of I can remove that dukkha right here, right now. Brett, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
We can turn off that projector because our projection sets us up for disappointment, does it not?
Yes,
Future
it does.
grasping.
We can turn off the projector. Now, the Buddha talks about that we can, in fact, the projector or the projection or the projecting is the problem. That when we see something and we don't know what it is, guess what? We try to make it into something. So when something meaningless comes by, guess what? We try to add meaning to it. We try to use the word because, and we want to find a source of everything. But we can, in fact, find that there is a source to dukkha, and that source to dukkha is wanting something that we do not have, or trying to get rid of something that we don't want to put up with. But those are really the same thing, two sides of the same coin. pushing and pulling are both the same kind of effort. So we push or we pull, and we do this unwisely. We do this ignorantly, because if we were wise to it, we would stop the pushing and the pulling, wouldn't we? We would stop that projections, stop trying to figure stuff out, and just be happy with the way things are, even if we don't understand the way things are. But we are geared, we are required almost by our this particular society that we have to find an answer to a question. This is especially true since schools have started using multiple choice questions. You got to answer something. You got to choose either A, B, C, or D. A really, really good, wise Buddhist perhaps would hand that paper in unchecked. Don't answer any of the questions. Why? Because they're irrelevant. The only thing that really matters is my relation to the teacher. And if I love him and he loves me, he's going to give me a good grade, even if I don't answer the questions on his damn test. What do you think about that, huh? Well, it depends upon how good your relationship is with the teacher. If it's not good enough, then the test becomes more important. But if your friendship with the teacher is what we've got going, and this is really what the Dhamma is all about, is how do we relate to the world given that we don't know nothing? We can stay ignorant and still be happy. That we can, in fact, use wisdom to see that we don't need the answers to any of these questions. That, in fact, you could say then that asking these kind of questions, does the Tathagata exist after death or not, is an irrelevant question that has no answer to it. And the more we work on trying to find the answer to it, the deeper into dissatisfaction that we will go. So, the correct practice then is to stop trying to figure stuff out and just let things be the way that they are without trying to force an answer onto anything. This is the teaching of the Buddha in the sense of the Four Noble Truths. And the first noble truth is, in fact, there is dissatisfaction, there is disappointment. Where it comes from is from our own greed to know. It's from our own greed to have and to hold and to obtain and to control. This is where dissatisfaction comes from. But we can drop all of that and come to the state. The third noble truth is that there is a state that is free from dissatisfaction. Free. It's got no problem with it. And the way that we can get into that state is by practicing the Eightfold Noble Path. And what is the Eightfold Noble Path? Number one, to remember sati, to look at what's going on. That in fact, in the Sutta number 117, the Buddha talks about the two extremes that come from that kind of questioning. And that is nihilism, nothing exists, or eternalism, it's going to last forever. And the Buddha says, we're not going to try to choose one of those two. We're going to instead choose to investigate, to look. And the more we look and the more we realize that things are constantly changing. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Sometimes the world is caving in on you, and sometimes it's going to last forever. Sometimes you think you're going to live forever, and sometimes you're on the corner of death. So things keep changing. Let's make sure that we keep investigating and we begin to see, in fact, I don't know. Then, in fact, we can say then that the I don't know is best. It's the best answer. I don't know and I don't care. Let's change the topic to something that's useful. and not try to answer all of these questions. So, by investigation, by remembering to look and to investigate. Now, it's not outside that we investigate so much as the inside. We've been investigating the outside for centuries now, and the physicists and the Christians are still arguing over what's out there because neither one of them are looking for what's in here. And so that's one of the major changes that the Buddha made, was stop trying to answer questions about things on the outside and start looking on it in the inside. What is on the inside? We got the body, we've got our feelings, we got our attitudes and mental states, and the fourth is we've got the Dhammas, which come in the form of thoughts, observations, all kinds of things that are quite fleeting. They arise and they pass away very quickly. They rot and they die. And then what do we do? Are we going to carry around the dead corpse, or are we going to drop it? This is, in fact, very close to the Anapanasati Sutta. The last part of it, the Dhammanupassana, is that everything is changing. Observe, look, see closely that everything is changing. Everything then that is in the state of rotting away and is going to die. Let's not carry around a bunch of corpses. This is something that I found quite amusing about physics, is that the physicists are carrying around corpses of things that happened 200-300 years ago, and the reality is they don't know. I guess that would mean that would be the death of the profession of astrophysicist. Is it? We don't know. But there's a lot of stuff we don't know. We certainly don't know about politics. A lot of people voted for something that they thought was going to happen, and guess what? Something else happened instead. Tariffs. So we can say then it's best that we stop looking for the outside world and start looking at what's going on inside the mind. Because if we can, in fact, see what's in the mind, we can see, is it in fact wholesome or not? And that wanting something that we don't have is not wholesome. And being satisfied with the way things are, that's wholesome. So this is really the teaching of the Buddha, is to forget about the yes and no questions that have no answers to them and just be satisfied with the way things are. That's the real key, satisfaction. Why? Because satisfaction in the Pali is sukha. Sukha is exactly opposite of dukkha. So let's get the mind into a state of satisfaction. And when you're satisfied, everything is great. That's just it. Everything is good enough. Now, do we have any questions about that? And by the way, Alex, I am so glad to see you, friend. Thanks for showing. He's not going to show.
Second to get unmuted. Sorry. Good to see you, though. Good to see everyone.
So, this is really the real teaching of the Buddha, is let's be satisfied with the way things are. As Brett said, let's stop the projecting. Let's turn off the projector and just leave the questions unsolved. There's a joke about that, and that is that the seeker, the looker, was looking all over the place. He went to India first and then to China, and finally he wound up in Tibet. And he crawled up this very, very high mountain asking the guru, because he felt somebody's got to know the answer to this question that I have. And the question, he finally found the guru on the top of the mountain. And he asked the question, what is the key to the universe? I guess that's Christina's like, what's the meaning of life? What's the key to the universe? And the old guru smiled, stroked his beard, and says, I don't know the key to the universe. But the universe has been left unlocked. So that's the way that we can look at it, is that there is no answer to all of these questions. But the point is that we don't need an answer to any of these questions. We don't need the keys to the universe. We don't need meaning. We don't need a God. We don't need any of those kind of things. We can just be happy the way things are. So, does anybody have something to say? Oh, Harold, let's see. You just came on. Thanks for showing up, friend.
I get a lot of joy and amusement of talking about existence. And I think it's different if you're coming at it maybe from like dukkha, like you're looking to find something. To me, I have a theory that feels good to me. Everything we know has a cause and effect. Part of even the Dhamma is.
But the way things are, we don't have to figure out what the causes and what
Correct.
the effects were. I guess the effects are how things are right now, and that's good enough. We don't have to go back and back and back to try to find some original cause. We can just enjoy the way things are now.
Are you never like amusingly think about it? Because to me, I think existence itself is the only thing that doesn't have or never had a cause and effect. It's a no beginning and no end, and it's incomprehensible. But it's amusing. It's like, one of the possible options, and an infinite universe existence, even all like 14 billion years. That's nothing to infinity. But what a marvelous.
That number is just made up.
Yeah, what a marvelous, like, you can't comprehend existence always existing. Something that never had a start. And to me, that is like fascinating. It's very cool, but I think then people will put in like, what does it mean about me? What am I gonna do when I gotta die? And all the religious stuff that comes after, instead of just like something does exist and so it doesn't. And you don't have to answer this, Dhammarato, but what's your gut feeling or hunch? I'm not gonna hold you to it, but
my gut is okay right now.
good.
feels fine. Not a problem in the world. I don't have to feel anything in particular. So, Ivan, what do you think?
Nothing to say. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Brett, let's go ahead and see if we can spend a bit of time on some of the other issues. You ask a question about how do you handle someone who is full of fear, right? Well, if you had a child, now in the West, they make even young children sleep in a room on their own, and all kinds of stuff will come into the mind of the child, and he will become afraid. So the child comes running into the bedroom and says, "Daddy, Daddy, there's a boogeyman in the closet, or there's a bear under the bed." What is Daddy going to do for that child who is full of fear?
Provide nurturing comfort.
Nurturing and comfort doesn't really help. The dad's got to go take the child back in the bedroom and go ghost hunting. He's got to stick his arm under that bed and feel around in his arm, and then pull his arm back, and the child gets surprised and says, "Got ya." There is no bear under the bed. You look for yourself. You come look. Turn the lights on and see for yourself. This is really the teaching of the Buddha, is that people have to look for themselves. How do you get them to do that? A child, getting him to look, I can imagine that a child would be so fearful about the bear under the bed that he won't even look to see. In fact, he wants the bear to stay under the bed. He wants the ghost or the goblin to stay in the closet, and so he won't open the closet to see that the closet is empty. Under the bed, it's empty. So, how can you then deal with an adult who is full of fear? You try to get them to look about what they're afraid of. But many of them won't do it. Christians, for instance, are going to be afraid of hell and afraid of a God, but they won't look to see that there is no God, or that whatever God is irrelevant. So the real answer is that no one can solve another person's problems. Every child has to look under his own bed. We can encourage people to look under your own bed to see that there's no alligators, there's no crocodiles there. In fact, I do that quite often with students to say, what's there to be afraid of right now? You don't have any crocodiles, there's no alligators, there's no Jewish mafia, there's no Russian mafia, there's no CIA, there's no ICE. That's the big boogeyman nowadays. There's nobody here. So why are we afraid? And yet there's where fear is. Guess what? Where is the source of fear? Is that we make shit up. That's where it comes from. So you were talking about your mother. Speak about your mother being afraid, Brett.
No, it's not fear as much as, well, there's some paranoia, but that's neurological based on the Alzheimer's diagnosis. So, what has helped is reassuring her that she's loved. And at the same time, my wife can speak to her, in a way that's,
she can see that there is no boogeyman under the bed.
yeah,
That she's got
that's right.
Alzheimer's and she doesn't remember. She needs to keep investigating. That's the whole point about Alzheimer's, is we forget. But guess what? In that case,
But that's a
we've all
benefit.
got Alzheimer's because we all forget. We all have to keep looking under that bed to see that there is no bear under the bed.
I wanted to say something. I want to rewind us back to our discussion about mental proliferation and how our curiosity can lead to that. Something that's useful to remember is that we call it insight for a reason. Otherwise, we'd call it outsight.
Insight in, let us say, Western Buddhist parlance is highly overrated.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Noble Dhamma.
Okay, the Noble Dhamma is that insight means actually looking and seeing. And we keep doing that over and over and over again. You see, in Western Buddhism that we were about to talk about, I'm going to do it anyway. They're looking for some great big grand insight. Oh, I have the answer to the meaning of life. That would be a great big grand insight. But the real insight is right now I don't know. And right now I don't know. And right now I don't know. But the insight has to happen over and over and over and over again. The insight needs to happen moment by moment. In fact, you could say that the insight is nothing more than a wholesome thought. I don't give a damn. I don't know and I don't care. Let's change the subject. And what can we change the subject to? Dukkha dukkha nirodha. Let's be happy. No problems at all. So this is where we're taking this, is that in fact there's that you brought it up, Alex, about the drawing that was done by Emanuel Sherman. And the up in the left top corner, it's a slogan that says "Free is now," and the F of the word "free" is actually a salamander. And then on the right side, going down, is the statement, "Oh, boundless joy to find at last. There is no freedom in the world. There's no happiness in the world." Well, think about that. Oh, boundless joy to find at last. There is no happiness in the world. In other words, if the physicists could figure out the beginning of the universe, how long would they be happy? They might pop the corks and have a drink of champagne, but the next day they're out there with their curiosity looking for something new because they're looking for their joy on the outside. But when we begin to see that I don't have to be curious, I could just be happy. Oh, boundless joy to find at last. I don't have to go find happiness in the world because there's no happiness in the world. Now, for completion's sake, in that drawing, there's a little self-portrait of Emanuel Sherman. And I need to talk about him because he's actually quite instrumental to Wat Suan Mokkh. In fact, it was because of Emanuel Sherman that there's an entire building called the Spiritual Theater, and most of the things in the Spiritual Theater by volume was done by Emanuel Sherman. He did most of the artwork. He was a graphic artist in America. He went to Japan for a while, ordained as a Japanese Zen monk, but then he hot-footed it to Wat Suan Mokkh and spent about 10 years with Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, wound up at Wat Khao Tum, which is 2 kilometers from here. And he's the one that made Wat Khao Tum famous. And that what he did is that he was bound and determined to become enlightened. And so he sat down under a tree and drew a great big circle around himself, kind of like the Buddha did at Bodh Gaya, and says, "I'm not leaving this circle until I'm enlightened." Well, funny thing about that, he died of pneumonia because he wouldn't go to the hospital because he refused, because he kept that vow. That was not a wise thing to do. I would say, in fact, is that the way that I would look at it is that I'm not going to move from this spot because I already am enlightened. What's the point of going to the doctor? What's the point of going to the hospital? I can die happily right here, right now, pneumonia or not. So Emanuel Sherman was still looking for something, and he was feeling dukkha because he didn't have what he wanted. But he did an awful lot of good art that Bhikkhu Buddhadasa not just approved of, but he set up an entire spiritual theater about it. And it's really worth, the next time you go to Wat Suan Mokkh, is to take a deep tour and read every line on every drawing in that theater. It's really worthwhile going. I remember some of them. One of them is a serpent with a mouth open, and that the monk is sitting on the tongue of the serpent, a very poisonous big snake with fangs. Okay, and so you can see then that in fact the fangs of this big serpent is like the world. Can you sit in the mouth of the world safely and just sit there and be happy in the mouth of the snake? That's the same as being happy in spite of the world. There's a lot of drawings like that. Another one is the drawing of a staircase. In fact, the drawing is a staircase. In fact, it's a full painting up to heaven, and standing at the lowest steps on the ladder is an imam, a rabbi, a priest, and a Buddhist monk. And what are they there doing? They're blocking the way so that nobody can get up. This is what religion is all about. Religion actually prevents people from being in the state of paradise that is naturally available to everybody. So I thought that I would add that to you, Alex, so that you can get an appreciation of Emmanuel Sherman.
Yeah, I like that. I did not know that story. Thank you.
What do you think?
I like it. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
yeah, I like that. Thanks for letting me know about that. I was wondering about the story behind that one.
Well, I have said everything I know, but that's enough. So, Karwan, what do you have to say about today's talk? No, Karwan. How about you, Nabed? What do you have to say?
Hey, Dhammarato. Yes, wonderful, wonderful. It's hard to remember in the morning for me that to look right now. I go straight into projection, right as I wake up. And how do I remember at that instant? Do I need to put a second alarm or something?
And Anna, you had a question about anger. How do you deal with anger, especially with your clients? And the answer is that you can, in fact, as a psychotherapist, you can deal with the anger by, let us say, going past it. In other words, when they are angry and shouting, your job is to not pity party them or say, oh, you're right, and comfort them in that regard, but you can laugh at them instead. Just take on joy. That's a hilarious thing. I hear you're angry about something that I think is hilarious. You can get them to come out of it. Why? Because laughter and joy has a power. And the reason why people get angry is because they want power. They feel like that they are oppressed. They feel like that they're afraid of something that might happen. They're afraid of not getting their way, being put down. They were insulted or whatever like that. And that the right way of dealing with that frustration and anger is by seeing that there's really nothing to it. You could also go as far as to say that people, when they're angry, they're looking for some sort of meaning in life. They're looking for the meaning of all of this. The answer is it don't mean a thing. Let's just have fun. Their anger, in fact, is of no value. It doesn't gain them anything. It just allows them to feel a little bit of power. But you can gain a whole lot more power through joy. So you can mention that to them. Now, this may take a little bit because people, when they're angry, they really cling to that anger. And then, in fact, when you're joyful, they may get even more angry, which would make you more joyful. And when your joy outranks their anger, they'll begin to see through it and begin to recognize, and they even burst out in laughter, seeing that their anger doesn't mean anything. It's just an attempt to feel powerful. But joy is power. What do you think about that? Go ahead.
Joy sits in the guts from my last experiences.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very
waiting.
difficult. And it's very difficult to get people to the guts because they're so used to be in the heads and many maximum
Right.
in the heart. So to drop even, I mean, I cannot do it. I kind of like bumping in diaphragm and I cannot drop it down. So because I cannot go drop it down, I'm not able to make others joyful because I can't produce it myself. So I'm kind of
You practice being joyful.
looking for something. That's that's why I guess I'm still not joyful.
Well, here's an idea, and that is that certain clients that you have will almost always express anger. They're angry by habit. So when their appointment time comes, you can say, "Ah, Mr. Angry Old Jew is coming. Let me lighten up and be happy so that when he comes, I can spread some joy." Or when the angry old black man comes, you can say, "Aha, he's coming. Let me be joyful. Let me be happy so that I can spread my joy to that angry old black man," or whoever it is. I'm not sure. But be ready for him.
I do it already, but then looks like my joy is
They steal it, huh? They rob you of your joy.
my joy is gone but I'm able to do what you're saying. The problem is like, where is my joy after? Why I'm not producing like over?
Hey, here you go. Once they walk out with their smile on their face, you can say, I got them to be happy after all. And take your bow, take your results. Or if they walk out angry, then you can say, "Wow, what is a relief it is, he's gone." But if you want him to do something and he's not doing it, then that will rob you of your joy.
What?
So you be joyful no matter what happens.
This part you taught me 2 years ago. I learned this lesson, so I'm not doing that. But I'm still kind of picking something that is sitting inside.
One thing I found that helped is that you can't really get in trouble for anything, like ever. Even at work, they really don't have any actual power over you. Some of my employees, I don't know, they'll do something bad, and they're like, "Aren't you gonna yell at me?" I'm like, "Yell at you? If I yell at you and you punch me in the face, I'd be like, yeah, I deserve that." I don't have any actual like authority or power, even though, if I'm their director or manager, they can't really get in trouble. There's no like, in reality, if we're just two people outside and I started yelling at them or speaking to them negatively, they either walk away or punch me. Those are like the two outcomes. So that's how I think helps seeing work.
But you kind of talk about you talk about fear now more than anger. Am I right?
Yeah. Right. So you deal with somebody's anger right here, right now by making light of it. It's no big deal. Just like he's talking about that his employee has done something wrong. He's not making a big deal out of it. He's being light with it. Lighten up.
My problem then mentally, it's somewhere else. It's not in my head. I'm fine with this. It's not in my head. It's somewhere else. This is
You
my
give
problem.
yourself a belly rub.
I don't have anything here. But the rest of the teachers who kind of trying to teach me, saying that I am very angry and tensed, and I may produce it if they tell me
I
too
don't buy that.
too much
I
of that. So I can produce some anger.
I've known you for a long time, Anna. Long time I've known you. And I don't see the anger there, but I do see Eastern European heritage.
So it's a kind of like intergenerational pain, something like
Yeah,
that.
right. You were raised on that. You
Yeah.
didn't get a bottle, you got a Putin to suck on, or something like that. So, in that regard, I don't see you as angry at all. If you stop seeing yourself as angry and start seeing yourself as joyful, light, and easygoing, That's what the Dhamma is all about. Have some wholesome thoughts. When that angry man is about to come through the door, you can say, I can handle him. I have to deal with his anger. I can be light and happy instead. Go ahead, Brett.
Well, I was just going to recall. Seemed like a couple of sanghas ago, Anna was so joyful, and her smile was so infectious. It just added to the Dhammasukha of the moment. So recall that, and
I
it was
joyful on Monday. I was the happiest person in the world on Monday. Then I get 2 days of my job, and then on end of the third day, one of the Kundalini teachers told me that I am the angriest person in the world, and I get pretty upset about this energy. So I'm kind of confused. What's going on?
They
I'm
lied
not.
to you. Can you see
myself.
that it was a lie?
So he lied to me. So what exactly I'm doing with the lies?
Good. Accept
Yeah,
being the
don't buy
angriest
it.
person in the world. The Eastern European thing, by the way,
That's
100%, because I'm from there as well. Americans are very laid back compared to us. For us, it's like we're on fire all the time. And I think if we were back home with our people, this would be more normal, right? Everybody's yelling and screaming, and it's totally fine. But then I think being around Americans, they're all calm and relaxed, and we're like, what's wrong with us? Like, why are we
in New York.
I wouldn't say that the Americans are calm and relaxed. I'd say that their anger is just different.
I don't see
They're
calm
righteous
Americans.
about it.
I don't know. I don't really see the difference. I do anymore. But anyway, I don't want to blame Americans. I kind of I don't have any complaints. For me, they're pretty similar, at least to those who I deal with.
Right. You
Can't
stay
complain.
with that. I don't have any complaints. That's all we need to stay. It's just, wow, everything is okay. No complaints. No problem. Everything is fine. Angry clients come. People say that I'm angry. It doesn't matter. I'm okay. Don't listen to them. Don't gain your joy from the outside world, because there is no happiness in the world. You have to generate that on the inside of your own mind.
Exactly. Somebody put some vodka, it's outside. So if they don't know yet, I think I need to comment on it. So vodka is not inside word, it's outside.
Yeah. So keep it on the outside. Don't let that stuff in.
I can't yet. I know it's
Well, practice. Practice.
yeah. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Good. Good. So, Sean, do you have anything to say?
Dhammarato showed up late. Sorry, I can't make it. Good to be here, though.
I'm glad that you're here. You're breaking up. So we'll go on. Ivan, do you have any last things to say?
Nothing. Nothing. Happy.
Nothing. Got nothing. I don't know and I don't care. Let's change the topic. All right. So thank you, folks. Thank you, friends. Mikey, can you
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks.
land it?
Thanks for being here today, y'all. And don't be scared. No need to leave. In fact, we invite you to stay. Dhammarato is just going to go take a rest and take it easy. But yeah, we welcome people to continue chatting on the Noble Dhamma here on the Dhamma Friends Discord. If you're watching this video on YouTube, come join us. There's a link to join this Discord server in the YouTube description. You can also find these episodes on Spotify and iTunes and other podcasting platforms. We also welcome you to check out OpenSanghaFoundation.org, which has many resources such as our Sangha map and many Bhikkhu Buddhadasa books and plenty of other things to play with as well. So yeah, thanks again, friends, for being here today. Don't worry, be happy, take care, take it easy.
Don't worry, be happy. That's right. Don't worry about those angry clients. Be happy. Don't worry about a mommy that's fearful. Be happy. Don't worry about that outside world. You're not going to find any joy there anyway. Just be happy. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you
Thank
next
you,
time.
Dhammarato.
Just stay
Hey.
on.
Bye-bye,
Thanks,
Dhammarato.
Dhammarato.
Have some friends. This is about the
Thank you.
Sangha. Now is Sangha time. So we'll see you later.